no idea what we're gonna say about this movie.
Desmond Pfeiffer.
We went and saw The Butler.
Been a weird week movie-wise.
Yeah. This movie was a biopic, I guess, of a real person.
Oh, was it really?
Yes, named Cecil Gaines. Yeah,
It took some liberties, I think.
probably. And some interpretations, perhaps.
Well, the way I saw it was basically this movie said that every single civil rights advancement, politically speaking, was because the president sat down and had a heart-to-heart talk with his one butler.
Yes.
He was like, you know what, you've changed my mind about segregation.
Change their hearts.
Change my heart and change my brother Bobby's heart.
Yes.
Bang the end.
Yeah. Cecil Gaines, the butler, he was a sharecropper's son. His daddy gets murdered in front of him.
Oh, God, yeah, his Mariah Carey, who was his mother. That was Mariah Carey, right?
That was Mariah Carey.
It was such a, perfunctory scene, because it was like, they're sharecropping, throwing cotton at each other because they're a fun family unit.
Yes, because sharecropping is so fun.
They made it look fun, man. So then, the guy in charge of the field comes over. He's like, "Come here, Mariah Carey. I have to talk to you in the shed." And they go in the
his rhythm.
What?
Sorry. I dozed off and thought you were talking about Scrubby Mama.
Scrubby Mama with the boogie beat is all about this young mulatto woman. Never mind, I gotta say. God damn it, Brad.
So he takes,
I can't even finish that sentence anymore.
So he takes Mariah Carey to the shed, and there's rapey noises, and all the sharecroppers are like, "Nope, don't hear nothing, don't see nothing." And tiny baby Forrest Whitaker was like, "Daddy, do something." So his dad's like, "Hey," and the guy turns around and just bang, shoots him in the head. End of scene. And then Vanessa Redgrave takes him, and she's like, "I'm gonna teach you to be a house so-and-so." They use the N-word an awful lot in this movie, but I think they're kind of allowed. So he's training to be a house so-and-so, and stop giggling. So
You were in a private giggle conversation back here.
So he learns how to be a butler, and then basically works his way up to the White House. This all takes place over the course of 15 minutes because they're basically getting to the president impressions
with voiceover.
Yeah.
Unnecessary. And then he becomes a butler at the White House, and it's very drawn out, and he works there from the 50s to the late 80s.
To the Reagan years.
Yeah, to the Reagan years. And during that whole time, civil rights and stuff, his son's a freedom rider, blah, 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 blah. And then at the end, he meets Obama.
Inspirational music, the end.
Yeah.
But the thing is, they're building it up as this biopic, but really, it's super perfunctory up to the White House. Cause it's Daddy gets shot, learns how to be a butler. By the way, he married Oprah and had a couple kids. That happened in a cutscene. Oprah's drinking. We didn't find that out until an hour and a half. So I thought that she was just delivering her lines really weird, but then she started knocking stuff over. I'm like, oh, okay, she's drunk.
Yeah.
And
apparently she's been drunk for years.
Yeah, we didn't realize she'd been drinking until we met her character sober, which I think is a joke that has that punchline. But anyway, she's like, this movie is basically about black men and their advancement through civil rights. And I did have a problem with female characters, but every movie doesn't have to be sisters or doing it for themselves. It's a movie about black men, because there's Oprah, and she's there, but she's kind of just running the house and getting drunk and banging the neighbor for a little while, which is pointless and unnecessary. There was the son was a Black Panther for a while, and I liked the way that they showed his his way of thinking advancing into being a Black Panther. And so he had his little girlfriend who was also a Black Panther, and she was an obnoxious cunt.
She really was an obnoxious cunt.
They strove to make her unlikable, which annoyed me a little bit.
Well, and the thing was, she seemed kind of likable at first, and she was still kind of likable, and then they were Black Panthers, and then it was oh, you're suddenly just a cunt.
Yeah.
Just suddenly you grow an afro table, and you're a bitch.
Ass stretching, and she's has
afros make you a cunt, Brad. Sorry,
Stop
that's what.
growing mine.
That's the lesson I got from this movie is that afros make you a cunt.
Oprah had an afro for a little bit. It was turned out to be a wig.
That was the disco afro. That's completely acceptable.
Yeah, that was adorable when she made them little matching disco outfits.
That was, yeah. Right before their son died.
But it's basically like the story.
Other son, the funny son.
Yeah, they had two sons. They had Black Panther's son, who him and his dad were at ends, and at the end they had like this big sweet reconciliation. And then Funny Son, who died in Vietnam. We're getting into spoilers, but you've seen these before. And I really liked Funny Son. We were talking outside that we really liked Older Son because he was a... Do you know who that actor was?
No, but he did a damn fine job.
Yeah, he advances from like conscientious objector to getting the crap beaten out of him to Malcolm X to Black Panther to wait, I don't want to murder people to getting his master's degree in political science to apartheid protester to senator.
Yeah.
And it was really interesting the way they did the steps from one to the next.
It seemed like a natural progression for that
history.
character.
Yeah.
Like in fact, I think that character had the most characterization of anyone in the movie.
Oh yeah. And there was one scene where he was talking to Martin Luther King. And he's like, what does your daddy do? He's like, oh, okay, he's a butler. Don't make fun of me. And he says, well, no, because black domestics have an important part to play too, and that's that they break the stereotypes by being, hardworking and respectful, and changing people's minds subtly. But while they did show that several times during the movie with him just randomly changing the president's mind by having a heart-to-heart
They
talk,
hammer it over your fucking head.
it was a weird character because his job was basically to pretend he wasn't in the room. Because they told him, it should, when you are in a room, it should feel like it's empty. So when he's at home with his wife, she's, drinking and banging the neighbor. And when he's at the White House, he's pretending he's not there. So it was kind of like, it was like a movie about a ghost, sort of.
It is Ghost Dog Part 2. I made Brad laugh. Ah, yes. A random mini movie reference. Aha!
So, we should talk about the presidents.
Yeah, okay, so...
Because you were fussing about this outside.
Well, I wouldn't call it fussing, because some of it... Alright. Every time we've talked about the trailer for this movie, because the trailer's really focused on the presidents, each president's basically a cameo.
Yeah, they're introduced so abruptly, because it's and here's Nixon!
Yeah. So it goes from, the Truman years through the Reagan years, and it basically stops on... most of the presidents. Mm-hmm. He has a little scene with the presidents, and it.
They skipped Carter.
They skipped Carter, and they skipped Ford.
Yeah, which is too bad because
I would have loved to see some Gerald Ford scenes.
But you like football?
But it was.
Thank you.
It was the ultimate example of fucking stunt casting, if I've ever seen it.
Well, because okay,
it's so unnecessary.
So for Dwight D. Eisenhower, we had Robin Williams.
Was he Eisenhower? Or was he? I thought he was Truman.
Was he Truman? Okay, that's even weirder. Okay, so
he kind of looks like Dwight D. Eisenhower.
Well, that's why I was confused. I'm sorry. So
maybe it was. I didn't even really say.
No, you're right. It was Truman.
But
it was still
Robin
Williams being Robin Williams with a bald wig.
Well, not like Mork for Mork Robin Williams, but just kind of like Robin Williams giving a normal interview. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it was just completely unnecessary casting. I mean, yeah, Robin Williams, he did fine. He honestly did fine. There was nothing wrong with the performance. He did fine. Mm. There's a lovely scene where he's painting.
Painting flowers.
He was painting flowers. I didn't know he painted.
He did do a good job. He'd doing the why are they making me do this? Oh,
yeah.
All right, desegregate that shit.
Yeah. It he was conflicted. And that was Brown versus Board of Education, right at the start.
And then we had Nixon show up because he was vice president at the time.
Yes.
I get confused on history, so you'll have to help me if I fuck up. And so they're downstairs fucking around with dough and making pies and cracking jokes.
They're making bread.
Cuba Gooding Jr.'s character was telling the filthiest fucking jokes throughout this movie. Should we wait for the train?
No.
Okay.
Yeah, fuck this.
So he's telling
Train's in all of these videos.
Hi, train!
So he's telling this joke the first time his character shows up. I'm waylaying it for a second because this character was awesome. He's like, so I was with this girl and she tells me to put her hand in. So I'm like, alright, so I put my hand in. And then she says, put your other hand in. I'm like, alright, so I put my other hand in. And she's like, okay, now clap. He's like, what? I can't clap. And she's like, you see, I told you my pussy was tight. And that was the first time we saw that character. And I'm like, I love you forever. So okay, they're making pie, and Nixon shows up.
To give them campaign buttons, and
And swear at them for some reason.
It's Cusack with slick back hair, and he looked a little like they did some makeup that isn't obvious in the trailer.
Kind of stapled the nose on.
Like the nose is a little longer, he's a little jowlier, and he just starts swearing up a fucking storm.
And I thought it was kind of Richard Nixon by way of Hugo Weaving. It was a little peculiar, but he did an alright job. I mean, it was a better job than I expected.
It wasn't as laughable as I thought it was going to be. It was actually kind of like, all right, if I didn't know for certain that was John Cusack, I would have been like, well, they got a weird dude to play Nixon, but he was fine. So it was Nixon, and he's swearing about Kennedy.
Just flop sweating already.
Yeah, and then Kennedy shows up, played by James Marsden, who did fucking great.
Oh, he did fantastic. I don't know who that broad was that was playing Jackie either, but she did a great job too.
Yeah, I've seen her in other things, and I can't remember, but she's been in other things recently. She's not a bad actress. But yeah, Marsden fucking nails it.
Yeah,
does
he wasn't
a really good
like
job.
Over the top airy like Kennedy impressed. He was like a realistic sort of like Bostonian accent, and just sold the character. And he was only in the movie for like 10 minutes, but he was...
Gave it some nice resonance.
Yeah, it's probably the most memorable.
No, the most memorable was Liev Schreiber.
Oh, okay.
Liev Schreiber as LBJ in full-on LBJ makeup, taking a shit.
Just like on the toilet with the door wide open.
Giving executive orders while taking a dump. And
surrounded by dogs.
Surrounded by dogs at all times. And asking for prune juice while taking a dump. It was fucking amazing.
That was a little amazing.
And there's that, and then it just fucking... Oh, back to Nixon.
Yes.
And Nixon as president.
I'm trying to suck up to Butler. And he's like, I'm not going to resign, and Butler's like, is that all? Okay, bye-bye. Well,
at first it shows Nixon, like, in the White House, like, making a tape talking about, you know, the Negro problem. And then it's, like, during the Watergate scandal, obviously, like, curled up in the fetal position on the couch with the tape recorder, listening to himself talking while he's talking to Cecil. Mm-hmm. And then it skips, right? From there, it
goes to Reagan.
Yeah, it jumps to Reagan, who's Alan Rickman, who looks exactly like Reagan.
Exactly like doing like the Reagan face.
And he's doing the Reagan face, and the impersonation's dead on, except for he's still British.
Uh-huh.
So
he was a little bit British, I'm not gonna lie to you. But really good, like, it was kind of a... Maybe there was like some sort of historical reference that I wasn't getting, but there was a point where he like took Cecil aside and was like, I like to give money to people who write me letters, but don't tell Nancy because she's gonna get on my ass about it, and just like hands him this big envelope full of money, and Cecil's like, okay, Mr. President. End of scene, never mentioned again.
And Jane Fonda did a fine job as Nancy Reagan too.
She did.
It wasn't a big
this
role.
Movie did a great job too, because those were Nancy Reagan outfits.
Yeah. And so those are the presidents, and for the most part, everybody did really fine, but I'm sitting there the entire time going, why the fuck cast these people if you're gonna put them in so much goddamn makeup when there are character actors out there that were born to play these goddamn roles?
Yeah.
It's just like, you know...
It was for the preview.
Liev Schreiber was hilarious as LBJ. They could have gotten someone who was a fine actor that looked like LBJ. They could have gotten someone who looked like Truman. I mean, Marsden, that's fine. You can keep that.
They didn't seem to really be too focused on that, because, like, the most jarring, I think, for me was a transition between young Cecil and Forrest Whitaker Cecil. Because it just kind of, like, jumped, and the kid didn't look even remotely like him. I mean, it looked like his kids did eventually, but it was basically like, and then suddenly I was a different guy entirely, you know?
Yeah, and then the aging of Forrest Whitaker, who acts really well, but there's this, like, 20-year period that's the main focus of the movie, and, like, yeah, people age a lot in 20 years, but my God, he aged a lot in 20
They were
years.
like just stapling flaps of skin to his face at one point in Oprah. They were just like putting more goo on. By the end, she was just perfectly round. The old makeup was a little annoying.
But yeah, I mean, this movie, it was...
It was damn poignant.
Yes, as I said earlier, outside the car, it was very poignant and moving, boring as hell, and completely unnecessary. This movie does not need to exist. Now, I can understand, like, making this movie, cutting about half of it out, and making it a really good movie about the father-son relationship. Mm-hmm. To me, that could have been a great movie.
I think, like, cut out some of the, presidential stuff, put in more about his backstory, because I thought that...
Yeah.
I would have liked to know how he met Oprah, for example, and had some babies, but, like, yeah, everything other than him just standing in the White House staring off in the middle distance, he just seemed kind of perfunctory, and I keep using that word, but it's...
Yeah, it really is, and they use it as a means of... It seems like, hey, here's what's going on right now, and you know what's going on in the world right now because he's standing in the background.
Yeah, because Cecil...
But then it cuts to the scene where his son's there at what's going on, and it's like, couldn't we have just used that? Couldn't we have just used that?
Yeah, like, the scenes of the son are the most... Because, like, when he's on the Freedom Bus, and, like...
Oh, man.
They get, like, pull off the road in Birmingham, and all these screaming white people just start flailing at them and set the bus on fire.
Alabama hates so-and-so. Signs! They had signs!
They did, like, the N-word, I thought they showed, like, the progression of it pretty well. Because, like, at the beginning of the movie, they were just using it like it ain't no thing. And then he gets older, and he's trying to get a job as a butler. He says, you should hire me. I'm a good house so-and-so. The guy just smacks him across the face and says, you do not use that word. That is a white man's word, and it's a fucked up word. And then later, he gets hired at the White House, and the White House staff is like, you know what? You can make a pretty good house so-and-so. It's like, I don't even know what to believe anymore. So yeah, like, progression from so-and-so to colored to Negro, and they kind of like...
And then
definitely...
and black.
Yeah.
Apparently Cecil Gaines was the guy who over the years kept going into the office to this one guy and being like, so I'd like equal pay. And every time the guy would be like, you can go get another job. And then eventually, when it comes to Reagan, he's just finally like, well, the president said that if you got a problem with this, you go take it up with him. And then
I wonder if he actually talked to the president about that, because it seemed like Reagan was kind of a fucker when it came to civil rights.
Yeah,
it's just the impression I got from this movie.
A little bit, yeah, he was. But yeah, it seemed like he used a little bit of trickery there, but whatever. But yeah, the first time he walked into that dude's office and goes in the black staff, and the guy's like, what? What's that mean?
It was funny to me though that like all the presidents had this like major change of heart and like initiated massive change with the civil rights movement, and then Reagan's one contribution was to fucking cripple ending apartheid, and then at the end being like, maybe I was wrong. Oh well, dim.
Jelly beans?
Poor old Reagan.
God. Yeah, this movie was... I can't say it was bad, but I certainly can't say it was good.
It was moving. It just wasn't really...
It was a failed attempt at Oscar bait, what it was.
It was a little Oscar baity.
And you know what? Forrest Whitaker might get a nod, and good for him, but...
I thought Oprah did a pretty good job, too. Because, like, she was doing that drunk
She did alright, but it's not nearly like... It was obviously, Oprah's acting again. Let's see if we get her another Oscar, and it's just like... No, because
she wasn't Oscar-worthy, but...
No, and you know what? And the other thing is, I hate to say this, especially to you, because I know how important the role of women in these movies is.
Uh-huh. Well, again, like I say, they don't have to take the forefront in the movie. That was just a little annoyed
there were a lot
none of the more positive characters.
There were a lot of scenes with her that, I'd say like 50% of the scenes with her could have just been cut the fuck right out of the movie.
Uh-huh.
They were
They should have gone one way or the other, because she was only in the movie enough for you to realize they're not really touching on this character like at all, and it's his wife.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Yeah, and and it doesn't have to be about their relationship. It's just half the scenes with her don't move the movie along in any way.
Uh-huh.
And therefore, to me, they're not necessary. Like with me in a movie,
Well, I thought they were. Sorry, go ahead.
there are some that are very necessary, that are very like key moments with her in the movie, but there are others where it's just like there's this 10-minute scene where apparently in the beginning they have this friend played by Terrence Howard who's a fucking drunk, and apparently she's fucking him.
A numbers runner
Yeah.
with this hanger metaphor.
And he's got a fucking gap tooth, and it's Terrence Howard, and he was, as with everything else, he was fine. But that whole character subplot thing, completely unnecessary to the
Didn't need
movie.
to happen. It was like he was working too hard and she was unhappy, so she was fucking the husband of a friend of hers who lived next door.
Yeah.
And then she stopped fucking him, and then he died.
Yeah.
The end. And they're like unto. He had like this weird metaphor he did where he had a hanger on each finger. He's like, I'm this hanger, and then you're this hanger, and it seems like they're different hangers, but you put them together, and man, it's magical. And she's like, whatever, get out of my house.
Yeah, unnecessary scene.
Completely unnecessary.
Yeah,
It was just he was that sort of movie. You
yeah,
know?
it was
Like,
a movie.
man, it was really rough back then.
Yeah, and that's.
The end.
But there's movies that do that so much better. And like, it's a story that should be told over and over and over again.
But better than this.
But better than this. Like, it's told better than this briefly in Ali, for fuck's sake. You know? Like, the scene with Ali stopping his car and crying is 20 times more moving than this entire movie.
I got a little bummed when Kennedy died.
Oh, I got
That's
bummed.
about, yeah.
Spoiler.
Brad, I don't know if you've seen the news. But President Kennedy was shot.
That guy from Mad Men?
Well, speaking of Mad Men, I have to tell you, their Lifetime's making a Flowers in the Attic movie. And
Another one?
Sally Draper is playing the little incesty girl.
Nice.
So that was an aside, because I'm running out of stuff to say about the Butler. You want to talk about the previews?
Sure, should we pause it for the previews, or you just want to go into it? Because we got, like, every Oscar bait movie preview.
Okay, what all did we get?
We got 12 Years a Slave.
We got,
What?
that looks
Yeah, oh,
fucking rough.
Yeah,
It's basically this guy who was born a free man, but then he gets, like, in New York, but then gets kidnapped and sold into slavery in Georgia, and then just is a slave there for 12 years.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
and the cast for it's amazing. It's Brad Pitt, Paul Dano,
I thought I saw Cumberbatch in there.
Cumberbatch, Fassbender's his slave owner.
Just beating the unholy shit out of him.
Who's the lead?
I can't pronounce his
know.
name, so you guys will have to. I will mispronounce this, so please forget. Sheetwell Ejiofor. He was the lead in Red Belt. He was the heavy in Firefly, or Serenity. Yeah, Serenity.
Okay.
In
Yeah,
that,
I haven't seen him.
he's
Nathan Fillion?
the
That'd
heavy.
be a completely different movie.
He's a very wonderful British actor. He's a guy who I really like seeing in movies. He's in. Brad might remember him from what was it, Four Brothers.
Oh.
He's like the bad dude in that.
But yeah, even the preview is fucking heartbreaking, because
Yeah.
the guy's like sold into slavery with no recourse whatsoever and having to.
Yeah. So we got that,
Roots.
and
Yeah.
it looked really good.
It did look
It
really
looked
good.
really-
Really fucking.
Really good and just
Rough.
really depressing.
We got that Oswego County or whatever the fuck it's called.
Oh,
Julie
yeah.
Roberts and.
August, Oswego County.
And I think that had Cumberbatch in it as well.
It did. That had Cumberbatch, Julia Roberts, Ewan McGregor,
Juliette Lewis.
Juliette Lewis, Meryl Streep. Yeah, that just looked boring to me. It looked like,
Kind of Gaga sisterhoody.
yeah,
But maybe it's.
our family's falling apart and we're all going to a funeral and we're gonna reconnect.
It looked like it's hard to gauge the tone of that sort of movie from those previews.
Yeah.
Because it's always made to be, this family sucks. We're gonna fix it.
Yeah.
What else? That one looked kind of cute. The like reunion Christmas.
Oh, I've gotten a different trailer. It's a sequel.
Best Man Holiday.
Yes,
Yeah.
Best Man Holiday. Which,
I thought that looked cute.
oh god, it's so unnecessary. But the ending scene in the trailer is killer. Like, two of the dudes are looking at the other guy's cell phone, and it's like a dirty video of his wife on YouTube. And the other dude's wife comes in and goes, "Hey, let me look something up on your phone." And his buddy just grabs his phone, throws it on the ground, and
Like,
just
hard enough that this bits go flying up.
then just bombs out of the room. Just like that. Fuck, nope, bye. But and then what?
Oh, we got Catching Fire.
Yeah, oh god.
I am on record as having read that trilogy and regretting it, but the second book is really good. And it looked fucking gorgeous, like the CGI on the dress that she spins in. And
Yeah, I just, you know what? I read the first one of those books and the first half. No, I read the second one too. And just to me, it still seems like that entire first movie was horribly, horribly miscast.
I thought they did alright. I liked Jennifer What's-It.
And she was alright, but I don't picture her as that role personally.
Oh, I do.
I
thought
think
she
she's a
was
fine
fantastic.
actress, but yeah, and then like the two dudes that are her love interest, they kind of got those guys mixed up. I think switched the cast.
I disagree, dude.
Really?
Well, Peeta's kind of a milquetoast until the third book, but you haven't read that one. Don't read the third book. Love of Jesus, don't read the
I
third
don't
book.
plan on it, but it's yeah, just how I picture the characters. Like it,
I disagree, but I'm probably gonna see the second one.
and you know Lenny Kravitz. I don't need to see another movie with Lenny Kravitz in it. Lenny Kravitz was in The Butler, by the way, and the entire movie he looked like he was trying not to shit his pants. He
had,
looked
like, 3
constant.
lines
He was
in
just
the
like
entire movie.
like all fucking neck. It was just weird. Fucking Lenny Kravitz.
I disagree. I thought he did fine, and I like him in.
Oh, I didn't think he did bad. It just I got the distinct impression that the entire movie his character was constipated.
He is a butler. It's kind of their job to look constipated.
Even when he's drinking and playing cards in his own
Yes.
house.
It's hard to unwind after work.
It's,
Okay, so we got Catching Fire. It had a flash of that guy, like with the trident, without a shirt on. Fantastic. What else? I think that was it.
was that it? I feel like there was one more like
We are terrible at remembering previews. We really
I feel
are.
like there
we need
was-
to like bring a notebook and write them.
I
shits
feel like
down.
there was one more like African American like Oscar bait movie in there, and I'm trying to remember what it was.
Ride Along with Ice Cube.
Dude, I can't wait to see that movie, man.
got that
Kevin
one.
Hart, it's gonna be
King
bad.
Kong.
I haven't seen that one. Is Kevin Hart in it?
Yeah.
It's Kevin Hart
Sweet.
and Ice Cube, and it's a buddy cop movie.
Sold. Double
Yeah,
sold.
yeah,
Triple sold.
exactly, exactly.
Buddy cop, I want to
never
marry
seen
your
Kevin-
sister, prove yourself movie.
Kevin Hart in a movie.
He's
I
a
have high
40-year-old
hopes.
virgin.
Oh yeah.
Oh, that is
I
him,
forgot
isn't
about
it?
that part. Yeah, yeah.
just so blinky.
Yeah.
Okay, so final thoughts.
There is this movie called The Butler, and it exists, and we saw it, and then it was over. The end.
Seconded.